In this episode, we're going to be installing an OS Geiken.
It's pronounced Geekin.
Limited slip differential in our Project DC2 Integra. Up to now, we've been building a really serious suspension for it, and one of the things, if you ever road raced a front-wheel drive car, you would know that traction out of the corners is always a problem, especially with ones with higher horsepower. You tend to spin the inside wheel and the car just kind of sits there on corner exit. Also, you tend to lock up the inside front wheel under braking a lot of times. To cure all that, we're going to be installing this OS Geiken limited slip, and this is one of the best, most versatile limited slips for a front-wheel drive car you can get. One of the problems with the front-wheel drive car is if the limited slip is too aggressive and locks too hard, you get all kinds of torque steer. You also get understeer. When the front wheel's locked, the car won't turn in. Both wheels will be turning at the same speed. The car just wants to understeer and plow straight ahead. If you want to see how this works and what you can do to tune an OS Geiken, let me show you. We have the differential unit here. The ring gear bolts to the outside here, and of course the pinion engages on the ring gear. The pinion's attached to the transmission and it spins the ring gear like so. Now the torque is transmitted through the differential, through these splined holes on either side where the both front axles go to. Now, when you go around a turn, the outside wheel wants to spin more revolutions than the inside. So in order to complete the turn without chattering and understeer, you have to differentiate between the inside and outside wheels. So that's why it's called a differential. And normally this is done with like spider gears and the other gears in there, so they can spin independently while still getting torque through the ring gear to the axle. Now the disadvantage of this is when one wheel starts to spin, it just runs away. So if you start doing like a burnout on the exit of the turn, all your engine's torque is transferred to the spinning wheel, which makes the spinning even worse. And you get no drive off the corner. Or if you're doing the drag launch, you only get one wheel spinning. Like you get a peg leg burnout, and that's lame. Like you only get half the available traction to move the car forward. So with the limited slip, basically you have clutches to oppose this. So we'll open the differential case here. Now the first thing you see is one of the side gears, and a very important component, the cone washer. The cone washer, when you put the back of the differential case on, it acts like a cone spring, and you can kind of see its cone shape. Now, this gets squished flat and adds what you call initial preload to the clutch packs. And OS Geiken has 3 different thicknesses of cone spring, so you can control the initial breakaway preload. Now the initial preload is the amount of resistance from the inside and outside wheels spinning in a static condition. So if you run a high initial preload, the car will probably tend to understeer more, but you'll get more even power to both wheels. So if you have a high horsepower turbo car that you need, you're willing to change your driving style a little bit to get more drive off the turn, you would probably run the thick cone spring and a lot of initial breakaway force. Now, if you had a car like maybe a H4 Honda Challenge car that doesn't have very much power, then you would use the light cone spring and run low initial breakaway torque so you don't get too much understeer and you don't have too much scrub losses. Now, the next thing is the cross gear and the clutch packs. Now you see the cross gear has the splines, and that's what attaches to your axle. It also has these teeth on the outside, and the teeth engage into half of the clutches of the clutch pack. So here's the clutch pack, and here's the teeth. Now, some of the clutches have tabs that engage on the outside of the differential cases, and the other ones have teeth that engage the cross gears. Now it's to these clutches that the differential action and the amount of limited slip force gets differentiated in. So the cone spring squishes this whole clutch pack, And the more it squishes, the more resistance it has to slip against each other. So there's 2 clutch packs in the differential, one on either side. I'm just going to show you this side. So on a front-wheel drive car, you don't have very many clutches. Like you have 3 drive and 3 driven clutches. Like on a like a rear-wheel drive or a high horsepower car, you might have twice as many, like 8. If you wanted less limited slip action, what you could do is like put some of these drive clutches together and then deactivate them. So then you'll have like 2 or 3 per side, and then the differential will have less total lock. So if you have a really low horsepower car with skinny tires and you want your differential to be really free, you can put a light cone spring, deactivate some of the clutches, get rid of some of your limited slip action. The next thing is the center ring. This contains your 4 spider gears. Like you can see them 1, 2, 3, and 4 here. And these go on these gears, and that's how the differential action gets transferred. Like the axle's attached to this, and this attaches to the center part, and the differential action takes part of the spider gears. Now what's cool about the OS diff is that it has 4 spider gears. Your stock Honda only has 2 spider gears, so this is literally twice as strong as stock. The OS
Geekin
is what you call a Salisbury differential. So like a conventional limited slip, for the amount of lock, it only depends on the cone washer, but for a Salisbury diff, you have your pressure rings and you have the cross shaft. So when the differential is doing its thing, this is attached to the axle. And when it wants to spin independently of this side, the cross shaft is forced to wedge this apart. And this wedges apart, puts pressure on the clutches. So you can see the cross shaft this way is like a wedge. Now, under braking, the cross shaft is pushed this way, and you can see how it hits right here. And that way it can't really wedge. So the only different limited slip action is controlled by the cone spring. So this is a one-way differential for that reason. Now the tune OS Geiken, you can change different pressure rings. You can have like a 1.5 way or a 2-way. A 2-way is, it would have like this kind of triangle shape on either side, and it'll lock up just as hard under braking as it will in acceleration. So you get strong limited slip action under braking and acceleration. It works really good for the rear of a drift car, for instance, but you probably wouldn't want to do that on the front wheel drive. A 1.5 way is a less aggressive shape cam and some wedging action under braking, but you'll get strong wedging under acceleration, light wedging under braking, and that's a 1.5 way. So you can go 1.5, 1-way or 2-way. You can control how rapidly the wedging force takes. You can change the shape of the cross shafts. You can change the shape of the slot in the pressure rings. And this changes the lock characteristic of the differential. The last thing is a negative spring in between the 2 halves of the pressure ring. These negative springs, what they do is they want to squish these 2 pressure rings together, and they counteract the wedging action of the cross shafts. And so what this does is it kind of mellows out the engagement of the limited slip action due to torque. Now OS Geiken makes 3 different stiffnesses of these springs, from a lightweight to a medium spring to a heavy spring. Now if you wanted a gradual lockup that comes in nice and smoothly, like you would in the front wheel drive car, you would use the heavy springs. Now the heavy springs will oppose the wedging action of the cross shaft, and then the lock will come in nice, slowly, and smoother. Now if you're running a drift car and you want the lock to hit really hard and really quick, you would run a light spring, and it would have very little opposition to the wedging here, and the locking would come in really fast. So you can control the amount of initial breakaway, you can control the amount of limited slip action you have, and you can control how quick it comes in by changing all these things. And no other differential has so much flexibility and adjustment as that. I kind of feel the way that OSGuy set this diff up from the factory is like going to be perfect for our Integra. But if we need to mess with it, we have that option. So that's how this thing works, and let's go stick the sucker in the transmission.
So while driving the car, this diff is really cool. One of the things you notice is when you turn right and you punch it, they might be a little chatter from the clutches, but it's not that bad, and it's getting better the more we drive it. It enables you to really rock it away from a right-hand turn. But where this diff really shines is in the high-speed turns. The braking is great, the turning is great, and you can get on the gas way before the apex and really accelerate through the turn with no understeer. I mean, this thing changes the character of the car, and man, it's a thing that you have to experience. It just seems so much for what it is.
OS Giken.
What does that mean?
Technical Institute.
Oh.